Time now for this week's Goofy Award. Canada Post CEO Doug Ettinger reported to Parliament this week that Canada Post had a pre-tax loss of $841 million. Now, about $200 million of that is attributed to that 32-day strike last fall. But why should we care? Well, you know what? Because we as taxpayers are ultimately on the hook for the financial losses. And it's not a new story. I mean, Canada Post had an operating loss every year since 2018. It lost $748 million pre-tax last year, $538 million in 2022. And by the way, people are concerned about their cost of living. Well, the federal government increased the cost of domestic letter delivery by 35% in the last year, 92 cents to $1.24 per letter. And the Canadian Postal Service Charter is the other side of this story that you should know about. It states that Canada Post must operate, in quotes, in a secure and financially self-sustaining manner. Well, obviously that hasn't been happening for years. But here's the goofy part. Everyone in government and the post office says that massive changes are required. No kidding, but they haven't been happening. As CEO Ettinger says in quotes, Canada Post needs urgent changes to its operating model, collective agreements, and regulatory and policy framework to improve its financial situation. Well, that's been the case for years. It's clearly not been enough to change because of the losses, though. We haven't seen that change. And now the union is on strike and has rejected a 14% wage increase over 4 years, along with a $1,000 signing bonus. It's hard to see how that offer doesn't put further pressure on Canada Post. They already got unworkable finances. I mean, the Industrial Inquiry Commission reported in May. They concluded the post office was, in their words, effectively insolvent or bankrupt. Which part is that hard to understand by the parties involved? Meanwhile, the government provides no leadership and certainly no protection for taxpayers who are, as I said, ultimately on the hook. I mean, the drop in both mail volumes and package delivery is well chronicled. What's not so certain is, what does the future of Canada Post look like in this kind of a financial model? How do they make it sustainable? Cup W National President Jan Simpson says Canada Post is playing hardball in these negotiations. Maybe that's just code for wanting major changes to secure financial stability. But how that can't be the case. I mean, it's got to be the case with Canada Post effectively bankrupt. As CEO Ettinger states, though, to stem these losses, in quotes, there must be first a break through the strong resistance to change that has led the national postal system to the brink of insolvency. The goofy part, only in government can the response to the relentless losses with a continuing decline in market share be greeted with a strong resistance to change. Oh my gosh, can we absorb the losses forever? I think the single word to sum all this up is hopeless.